I'm Jude, and I have with me today Richard Creightmore. Richard is a geomancer, a water diviner, a Feng Shui Master, and an acupuncturist, both of the earth and of people. Richard, welcome. Hi.
Hi, Jude. Thank you.
Richard, tell us first of all, I've just said you're a geomancer. What is a geomancer? What makes you a geomancer?
Geomancy, the root words "gay," the earth, meant a divination. So geomancy technically means divining the earth.
Okay.
So it encompasses the whole realm of what have become known as the earth mysteries. Everything from why stone circles built as they are, why churches and cathedrals built as they are, through to the subtleties of currents of earth energy running under our homes, making us happy and cheerful and prosperous, or unhappy and sick. So there are layers and layers of geomancy. In a way, the foundations are the ability to divine the earth, to douse currents of earth energy. And in that we can include underground water veins, geological faults, and leys particularly. So global geomagnetic grids and portals and a whole variety of other things. So there's the dowsing of the earth energies, and then there's a whole department of geomancy that includes what we then do with them in terms of design of sacred space. So we find a sweet earth energy spot, and then we decide to honour it and mark it in some way, perhaps with a stone circle, and perhaps with a parish church, perhaps with a Gothic cathedral, and bring in some of the other traditional skills involved in that design, including sacred geometry and acoustics and astronomical alignment, ceremonial.
Fascinating. The principles of geomancy obviously have been going back since time began. How do you use it in your work today?
Predominantly, I'm going to individuals' homes and checking the quality of their earth energies. Usually my consultant geomancy is because they've got some problem in the home, some illness, some recurring bad luck, some spirit disturbances, seeing ghosts, that kind of thing. And I'm asked to go and space clear the place, which involves dowsing for any lines of geopathic stress running under the home, doing a style of earth acupuncture to clean up the geopathic stress, perhaps involving resolving any landscape trauma that had generated it in the first place. Typical examples of landscape trauma are anything that the bulldozers have done. So
I was going to ask you about that, yeah.
Quarries and mines, and railway lines and so on, can generate geopathic stress in the first place. And if we want to obviate that, we can do a little offering to the elemental spirits as part of a foundation stone laying ceremony. So it brings in some of those folk traditions about honouring the local landscape spirits as part of the discipline of geomancy.
There must be an awful lot of disruption of the earth with the amount of construction that's going on now, and that is increasing. So if you've been to a place and you've balanced it, and then phase 43 of a huge housing estate happens just across the road or just down the road, does that put the original thing out of balance all over again?
Absolutely. You can release the causal traumas that have already happened in the landscape, but all it takes is a neighbour down the road to dig footings for a conservatory. And if the lines run through their garden and then through under your house, that can disturb things again. So then the process of ongoing checkups, perhaps every year, perhaps every 5 years. Obviously, a big new housing development, I like to go in and check the earth energies as soon as the foundations and groundworks have been finished and developed across the road. And obviously, if you're living in a city where there's building work going on all the time, there's a good case for 3 monthly checkups rather than yearly checkups.
Yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely.
there is ongoing stress. There are some well-established techniques for setting up shielding fields around your home.
And how does it work? This is a classic question, but I, for one, live in an apartment. I don't live in a house, and I'm one floor up. So how would that work for me?
For underground water veins, if they're registering distress in their information fields, that rises on a clear vertical plane straight up from the underground water vein. A famous Bavarian dowser of the 20th century famously went up in a hot air balloon and could still douse the geopathic stress crossings at 1.5 kilometers high.
Oh, wow.
So direct vertical plane, it'll affect you if you live on the first floor or if you live on the 20th floor. But if you live in the basement, then underground energies will affect you worst of all.
Absolutely. So when people in London, when the uber rich are now digging down into their cellars to create swimming pools and indoor cinemas and so on, not only are they disrupting their neighbours for months on end, but presumably they are disrupting those earth energies that have been settled for ages.
Yeah, absolutely. So that we're getting lots of little micro pockets of geopathic stress generated by the digging out of cellars. Not on the scale, obviously, as the digging of the underground railways in London.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah.
The sewers and all the other underground features. But yes.
And what about this HS2 project then? I mean, that must be causing all sorts of strife.
Yeah, the building of the railways did in the first place. The building of the canals did in the first place to an extent.
Wow.
Motorways does. HS2 is no different to that in terms of the amount of geopathic stress generated.
When developers are planning their housing estates, I've noticed that one or two of them now are being more aware perhaps of the landscaping and the implications of the landscaping for the residents and for the local community. Are you aware of any developers who are engaging somebody like you to check the land, to actually apologize to Mother Earth, to make those offerings you were mentioning?
Certainly there are two property developers that I work with occasionally when they've got a new estate on the go. I'll go and check, first of all, the state of the earth energies before the estate goes up. And then as soon as all the groundworks and foundations are in, I'll go in and clear up any geopathic stress as I can. But I'm also instructing them to make some kind of traditional offering, usually at some kind of geomantic centre point within that place, which is perhaps if they're planning a village green in the middle or whatever, to bury some crystals, to make some offerings of food and drink in the traditional way that cultures pretty much all around the world have tended to do at the start of a new building project. Just offerings in good faith to the elemental spirits of place in order to keep them on side, keep the energies happy. And if they do that, people tend to find that projects go much more smoothly. The right part arrives at the right moment. The builders aren't hitting their thumbs with hammers so much.
It's encouraging to know that you're actually working with a couple of developers nowadays. That's encouraging. Sad it's only a couple, but at least you've got two that are wide awake and aware. That's good news.
There was a story in the 90s that Wimpy Homes actually were giving a little Feng Shui booklet out. It turned out to be relatively superficial, facile little booklet on Feng Shui, suggestions for furniture placement within the homes.
No.
But it was a start. You know.
It was a start. Yes, it was a start. Yeah. So you mentioned Feng Shui there. You are a Feng Shui master. Do you use this out in the open air, or do you use it within people's homes as well for balancing, or is it both?
Well, in a way, the Feng Shui training that I've done has kind of become part of my whole geomantic vision. So the specific Chinese cultural details, some of them are only specific and useful to China. A lot of Feng Shui precepts are particularly useful for domestic, secular homes and business spaces. So they're particularly useful, I find, for interior design, but also for understanding placement in the landscape. And of course, the more you study different geomantic traditions around the world, the more you see the common template. There's actually maybe slightly different words and colorings, but identical principles, whether you're looking at Native American, Aboriginal, Australian, or classical Hindu, classical Chinese Feng Shui version, or indeed whether we're retrospectively trying to understand the specific design of our own Neolithic stone circles and different.
Absolutely, absolutely. So all of this work, all of what you do, which is just absolutely fascinating, and it brings us, literally, it grounds us, it brings us back to center, it brings us back to our relationship with the earth. This is what you're going to be talking about at the workshop, which is being held on Sunday, the 3rd of October, 2021, at a place called Yew Lodge on the Surrey-Sussex borders. And it's the first in a series of workshops about the elements. And this one is, surprise, surprise, earth. And the other keynote speaker that we have confirmed, there might be a surprise third, is Nicola Peel, who's an environmentalist. She's gone all over the world, particularly in the Amazon forest, working with indigenous tribes on all sorts of projects. But you're going to be talking about your work and doing some practical work as well. Now, tell us a little bit about that, because you have done a survey there for me, so you know the place. Tell me about that. What did you do when you went and looked at that place, as an example?
Yeah, when I went to have a look at Yew Lodge, first of all, I was looking at the quality of the energy information fields of the underground water veins, which were all in pretty good order. There was a little bit of distress, but nothing that couldn't be cleaned up, of course. Then at the quality of energy in the leys, there were a couple of good leys running through the place, and for any kind of spiritual activity, we tend to find leys running through the venue. And again, leys can be running distressed or can be running keen and happy. And the leys there were running particularly keen and happy. I was particularly impressed by the yew tree outside the front door at Yew Lodge. Yeah. Good, healthy, especially the kind of teacher trees, the key trees, are always a clue to the state of the energies in the place, as well as can have a story to tell about the history of the site if you listen to them. So I was looking at that, and I was also looking on a more secular, if you like, Feng Shui design level, the way the different structures within the complex work together, immense relationship. And things like the quality of the building fabric, the quality of the building itself. It's been well maintained, it's been loved, it's had money spent on it. This is a sign generally that the earth energies are sweet and happy, and that the place is energized with good leys, because good leys will bring creativity, spirituality, prosperity to the site.
All of which is really very positive, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a great day, obviously, with all that lovely positive energy there. And we're going to be talking about aspects of working with the earth, how the earth supports us, how we can support the earth. So tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing in your sessions. Some of them are going to be inside and some are going to be out in the beautiful grounds, aren't they? Yeah,
I like to try and work practically. So what we're going to start with is learning to use dowsing rods outside in the grounds, and learning to douse underground water veins, and learning to recognize any that are carrying distress in their information field. You could find a couple of them that could usefully do some work. So we're going to find them, and then I'm going to demonstrate, and everyone's going to participate in the processing of the distress, using wooden wands as earth acupuncture needles, key earth acupuncture points around the grounds. So that's, we'll start with that, just to clean up the water veins, and then we're going to look at the quality of the leys. And even if the leys don't particularly need any help, the specific ones running through the complex, then what we can do is access the ley network and put our little input of peace and love and blessings and good wishes into the lay network as a whole, the national network or the global network. There is this link between the consciousness in ley lines and devic consciousness within the landscape and human consciousness too. So in a sense, raising the vibration rate of leys and healing any discordances within them helps all the life forms within that locale, as well as within the earth as a whole. We can each do our little bit to help raise the vibration, raise consciousness, bring healing where there's suffering. Whether it's on the level of the earth, which is what geopathic stress refers to, suffering of the earth, for human and other communities.
Well, when we were there the other day, there was a group of indigos at the lodge the other day for a healing day, and when that was over, we went to this beautiful yew tree. It's 900 years old apparently, and we held hands around the yew tree, and we actually said some prayers, and we sent healing into the earth and out there. So excuse me, that's the sort of thing that you're saying can actually help to get more energy into the leys. Would that be right?
Yes, absolutely. Any human ceremonial practice is partly whatever internal focus is going on, also can potentially generate a blessing into the local earth energy network for the benefit of the parish, or for the benefit of that area, or for the benefit of the world. So whether we do just an all-purpose blessing, or whether we have a more therapeutic focus on specific problems that we find, and focus on them and bring some healing to them as we can.
I think I've been to one of your workshops and I've seen you working, and I'm blown away. The earth acupuncture, I've seen it when you put these stakes into the ground, and when you first mentioned earth acupuncture, I thought, what on earth does he mean? And it actually is driving a stake into the ground, isn't it? Tell me a little bit more about that.
The principle is identical to human acupuncture, except I've always found that working with wooden wands is a much better way of working than with metal stakes. As I was first trained, there were old dowsers in the 1970s and 80s who were hammering lengths of rebar or lengths of iron stakes into the ground and then leaving them there. And round about the mid-80s, about the same time that earth acupuncture began to be coined as a term by several different dowsers at the same time around the world, a number of us felt that leaving something in long term just became a thorn in the flesh, just like it would if you left an acupuncture needle in someone's arm too long. But also felt that metal wasn't necessarily the best thing to use. Traditionally, of course, iron offends the fairies. Copper or bronze doesn't. But I've always had a natural aptitude for working with tree spirits, and I love to work with tree spirits. They have better access to elemental realms than I do as a mere human. And I found that, so I work with a bag of wands, so effectively sticks with tree spirits still living in them, but actually a bag of mates that I'm working with when I'm doing my acupuncture.
Talk to me about the elementals. I mean, when we do this work at the workshop, which I think is sounding more and more exciting, are we going to be interacting with any of the elementals? I have a sense that there are quite a few living there. It's a beautiful place for them to live. Are we going to be interacting?
I have no doubt that we'll be interacting with them, even just gathering together for a little meditation. We will find that like-minded elemental spirits might come and join and lend their soul power to such healing as we're producing. Quite specifically, there's a classical distinction made between the elementals of earth, air, fire, and water, known as gnomes and undines and sylphs and salamanders. But the whole elemental realm, we can go off from flower fairies through to mountain gods and river goddesses and different levels of devic hierarchy over to the overlighting spiritual place of that hilltop, or the overlighting spiritual place of Surrey.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All different so yes, we will be interacting to a greater or lesser extent consciously. And obviously, if we focus on meditation or a particular elemental calls our attention to something, then
I think it'll be lovely. And I'm sure with Nicola, she wants to do a vision quest around the woodland and so on. So, I mean, I'm sure they'll come out to play there as well.
we will definitely be meeting elementals then.
I'm sure they'll be coming out to play and they will be very welcome. So, Richard, thank you. In winding up, let me just remind people, the workshop is called Exploring the Elements, Earth. It's on Sunday, the 3rd of October. It's at U Lodge, which is on the Surrey Sussex borders. There is some ensuite accommodation if people want to stay over on the Saturday night or the Sunday night. If you would like to book tickets, then you need to get in touch with me. My name's Jude, and you can contact me by email on judy@indigoumbrella.co.uk, or you can telephone me on 07597 020 512. Is that right? Is that my number? 07597 020 512. I think that's right. Or you can look online at indigoumbrella.co.uk. Richard, do you have any final words for us about the workshop, about your work, about where we are today?
We're obviously at a bit of a transition point. I mean, it's easy to say that in any particular decade, but with what's been going on the last couple of years, there's clearly a big transition going on. And I think it's us to define the new normal long term. And we can, of course, hope that more spiritual and compassionate values are creeping into cultural consciousness as a long-term effect of what's been going on at the moment. So, yes, we're obviously going to be talking about issues of the day, but also focusing healing into issues of the day. Well,
that would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be nice. Lovely. So thank you, Richard. And I'm really looking forward to working with you and with Nicola on the 3rd of October. Thanks very much for joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jude. My pleasure.